the 8 wing just rejects in order to protect the 9 non-engagement. Okay. Like I have been in conflicts with 9 wing 8 where they just refuse to engage. That is avoiding conflict. That is still like blunt, blatant avoiding conflict, but it's through complete rejection. Versus the 9 wing 1 will avoid the conflict by being like, no, you need to fix how you're talking to me. Okay. The anger of a 9 wing 8 is more angry than the anger of a 9 wing 1. That is not my experience because I feel like when I'm angry, I'm like viciously angry.
The big hormone Enneagram.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres 45 wing, 458 trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with 1, 974 trifix.
What up, it's Emeka. I'm an 8 wing 7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4 with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
What are we doing today? Are we doing wings, or are we going to do part 2 of this thing that me and David and Nancy did last week?
What did you do last week?
We did different blind spots. Besides the instinctual blind spot, and how we might, if you don't integrate certain qualities represented by certain types, it gets compartmentalized.
That's cool.
Maybe in the form of something that you're attracted to. I think I remember something you and David, we were having a conversation about how I'm really affected by heart energy, and that's something that I have to integrate myself. Otherwise, it gets externalized into what I'm attracted to. And I was thinking about that for Josh, and I think one of the examples I gave was that Josh is attracted to things that he lacks, like someone who has some kind of wild, irresponsible energy, like a 7 or something. Maybe that's why he's attracted to us, because that's the polarity that he's missing. And sort of like all these different ways that we have to integrate these blind spots, or they become compartmentalized, or they express themselves in unconscious ways. And so we were exploring the different blind spots that we all have in the Enneagram.
The other thing I think that we intended to start on, but I don't know how much we actually got to it, was just the last fix in the trifix, sort of being a semi...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last center.
Right. The last center, right.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'd want to hear...
We can do a part 2 later, because you haven't gotten a chance to hear it, so we can just do wings.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. Yeah, we got our wing queen here.
I don't know about that.
The flying queen.
You've established yourself as a wing queen, so you got to accept it.
All right. That's a high bar. I need you guys to set that a little lower so I can continue to impress.
Nope, no adapting here. You have to own it completely.
That's the 9 line to 3. It's like, keep it low, so I'll always dazzle.
All right. Big hormone Enneagram. We are doing it. And we got plugs. Buy my book. Buy David's Trifix book. I'm doing a study group based on my book on Sundays via Zoom, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. $15 a class. The previous classes are recorded.
How do people find you there?
Sorry?
How do people find you for that?
I'm on... You can find it... easiest place is the Facebook group Enneagram Universe, but people have been getting me on email and on Instagram. You can get me on my website, johnlukovich.com, and I'll eventually have it more organized, but for now I'm just kind of figuring things out.
What was the thing that you guys talked about recently, or the last class that you had today?
So, yeah, we just did a class today. It's on a section in my book, the end of the first chapter. It's called A Real Human Being, and it's talking about how the instincts are automatic, so we don't really have a say in what our body's needs are. We don't have a say in our need for other people. We don't really have a say in who we're attracted to. They just happen automatically. And so when we are identified with our instinctual drives, we like our whole consciousness basically becomes lowered to that automatic level. Like our reactions to our instinctual stuff and our thoughts around our instinctual stuff all become completely automatic. And so it was about how do we, instinct. I said like instinct is obedient to something, whether it's obedient to our life, our sense of living, or obedient to our ego agenda and distortion, or it is obedient to an inner life. And so, to that end, we started talking about the way that we leak energy through the reactions of our instincts and how to work with the blind spot from that point of view. So even though that section was like maybe 3 or 4 pages in the book, it always ends up being pretty rich discussion and Q&A answer, question answer and breakout rooms, and we do meditation at the beginning. So
DAA plug.
Oh yeah, DAA. We recently typed Marina Abramovic. How do you say that?
Yeah,
I think it's Abramovic.
Okay. So yeah, we recently typed her. I know, John, the only reason I found out about her is because I think years ago you posted about her in a group as an example of a sexual 5. And yeah, tune in to see if that's correct. Who else? I don't even know who we're doing next.
You guys just did Alan, what's his name? Alan Rickman?
Alan Rickman, and then we did King Douchebag of the World, Andrew Tate.
I'm so excited to watch that one.
Where did he come from? Who is he?
He is a guy who's apparently very effective at marketing because he came out of nowhere, and basically his clips are dominating the internet, and which is a clue to his type. But he, a former kickboxer who he eventually moved into making money, making business. So he's a multimillionaire who now has an online course called Hustlers University that teaches men to make money, and so men. Yeah, just men.
Only men.
Because men are
cis,
amazing.
White men.
And but he's been promoting himself by, going on podcasts and making very controversial comments and starting fights, basically pissing people off. The Trump flood the zone, strategy. But in only a matter of a couple months, he's gone from relative unknown to having like over 2 million views or 2 million followers on Instagram. So it's very, very effective self-promotion. But he's a massive douchebag, and but I mean, I respect the hustle. Like you're making it happen. I didn't know who you were. I don't care about who you are, but I can't turn on any social media without seeing this motherfucker's face, and everywhere. So
part of me really hopes he's like a plant. Like he created this whole persona to gather data from the other side. I really just hope in like 6 years we're gonna find that out. And he was like, surprise.
Yeah, it's much worse than that. It's kind of like, people are hoping that Trump is like not real, but he's very much a real person.
No, it's horrible. People are just horrible.
It's like, it's not going to stop. If you keep giving this guy attention, he just keeps getting stronger. And those of you who want to get typed or looking for help with your typing, Google Get Typed by Enneagrammer. You can find our typing services at enneagrammer.com. Instinct stacking, Trifix, all the stuff that we talk about. Get the best damn typers on planet Earth at enneagrammer.com.
Yeah, I am also taking astrology readings. Give me your information. I will tell you about your chart. When you have your correct typing, also your, I was going to say Enneagram chart, your astrological chart, your natal chart gives you more nuance into what type of 7 you are, into what type of 9 you are, into why you don't identify with 7 or 9 or whatever you are. It's very nuanced. It helps bring a lot of sort of dimensionality to the Enneagram or the Enneagram to astrology in its opposite sense. Yeah, do it. Please.
Where do people find
you? Come to me. You can find me on my personal Instagram account, which is I am Alexandra AA, or my Enneagram account, which is Angry Enneagram 9. One of those. Or if you have me on Facebook, you can message me there. It's been going really well. It's been really wonderful. So
why are you so angry?
Why am I so angry? We're going to talk about that today, aren't we?
Why should people want to work with an angry 9?
So an angry 9 may have the most wisdom of all.
Oh.
Rageful philosopher of the universe.
Yes.
Yeah. Indeed.
So we talking about 9 wings today?
How about 9 wings?
All right. Crown of the Enneagram.
Yep.
Primordial ego agendas of
The types of the carrying the all the world's toxic personalities and absorbing them into their bosoms.
Into their bosoms, that's right. Yes. Why do we hold so much toxicity? Because the rest of you are toxic and we just absorbed it.
Unless you're a
So
toxic
true.
9.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Those
Yeah.
don't exist. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I would say there's 2 of them on this podcast at this moment.
Wow.
Can confirm. At
Yeah,
least
we're the
one.
scariest. Look, not even kidding though. 9s are the scariest, I think.
And
Agreed.
I think they're
especially when they go
just-
Joker mode.
Yeah, just in plain sight, and you never know what's going to activate them, how much they've absorbed, what their tipping point is, and then suddenly they're getting carried out of your apartment by policemen.
Or, got the serial killers who, some of the most famous serial killers are
Yeah, just
Core
off their whole
9s.
family at once. Yep.
just eating people and storing their bodies in the fridge.
Yeah.
We love a good family murderer.
So, who says
You guys
9s are
should see my
ordinary?
backyard.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, David will have a dog come by the house and he's like, nope, I'm not touching that dog. You can starve and freeze to death out there.
Yeah, he will.
Right.
Welcome to Peaceful 9 land.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, gosh.
All right. So, yeah, how do we kick this off? We're looking at a positive outlook type, a gut type, a withdrawn type. At the top of the Enneagram, flanked
And an
by
attachment type.
and an attachment type. Yes. How could I have forgotten that? Flanked by an assertive rejection body type and a frustrated compliant body type. So, how do those wings differ? How do those 9s look separate? How are they still both 9s? I've seen a lot in the community talking about how 9-wing 8s and 9-wing 1s look like entirely different types, and how I've seen, maybe this is my own saltiness coming up or whatever, but I've seen a lot of people attribute more toughness and like less 9ness to 9-wing 8 than 9-wing 1. So I'd actually like at some point to talk about why they're both still 9 as fuck.
Very 9 as fuck.
Yeah, so we can get into that.
I mean, energetically, I would say, I think the first Wings episode we talked about how there's more in common with the types that share core type and wing combination. And so, for example, I have a lot more in common with 7-wing 8 energetically in other ways than I would with 8-wing 9s. Like 8-wing 9s feel similar to 9-wing 8s. So like when you get 9-wing 8 and any combination of 8-9, you get this really solid, immovable quality. And same thing goes for 1-wing 9 and 9-wing 1. There's like a very withdrawn but sharp, frustrated quality. And so in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, 9-wing 8 seems like a completely different energy than 9-wing 1 does.
Yeah, let me look up the database really quick. Somebody wants to take over for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, David, what are your thoughts in comparing yourself to 9-wing 8? What are your prejudices against
That
9-wing
says it
8?
all.
Oh, yes.
That's it.
Okay.
What do you hate about 9-wing 8?
Oh, I could talk on that.
Yeah, get into that. Let's talk. What do you hate about the opposite type of your opposite wing?
Okay, just looking at the database, we're starting with Megan the Stallion as a 9-wing 8. Like, duh.
she is a
Very, very
stallion.
obvious 9-wing 8, where she's just like thick body 9-wing 8.
Thick is the
Yeah, she
operative
is.
word here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Not
even
just in
when-
her literal physical composition, but like energetically. She's like
Right.
heavy and soft and thick.
That is what 9-wing
Yeah.
8. It's the essence of thickness.
Yeah, essence.
Spiritually thick,
Voluptuous.
voluptuous,
Yeah.
Even-
meaty.
Even
Yeah.
slim, skinny 9-wing 8s feel thick.
They still
Yep.
feel thick.
Mhm.
Right. True.
Yeah, it feels more like a closed fist, or just like More like a bear or something like that. Like just like a heavy, weighty, sleepy, don't bother me kind of energy.
I was thinking more like slabs of steak.
That, I mean, sure. I'm sure somebody would love that.
Raw or cooked? Because I feel like that makes a difference.
I prefer
We'll say both.
Semi-cooked. How about that? Like medium rare.
I don't know why, but like what came to me immediately was 9 Wing 8 is like chocolate pudding, whereas like 9 Wing 1 is like chocolate mousse, like that fluffier.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
You know?
refined.
Yeah, full of
with
air
little mint
bubbles.
leaf. Yeah.
Yeah, the
So-
princess, the refined princess or prince quality is more 9 Wing 1. Like 9 Wing
Oh, for
8
sure.
is like wants to be messy, like that sort of like Jason Momoa.
Mhm.
You just got out of bed hair. I might have just fucked, and who knows what else have I done? Sort of like sexual appeal. Like every 9 Wing 8, and it spiritually wants to end up there.
Yeah, totally. Looking at this, also Beyonce is another popular one that is very 9. She's very 9, but she does have that meat quality. That's so good. Meat is so good because I don't identify as meat.
You're not a
Well, I identify
slab.
you as meat.
Oh.
Oh my god. Gross.
Okay,
really
well,
fast.
despite
Gonna
being
have my
John's
meats.
prey,
that?
I think that the archetype of like the maiden, of like the young bride, of the princess, whatever, you know, like
Right.
the young delicate. Oh, the white swan from the movie Black Swan.
Yeah,
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
a
All
good one.
9 Wing 1.
Mm-hmm.
All 9 Wing 1. Where 9 Wing 8 is like in what is that show called? Breaking Bad. That guy Mike
Yeah.
in Breaking
there you
Bad, where
go.
it's like
Yeah.
soft, like fuck off.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of 9s you end up becoming like athletes, tough guys. A lot of
Bouncers and
bouncers. Yeah, but like the
Yeah.
9s who end up identifying as 8s often are really feeling into that 8 Wing. I think 9 Wing 8s really have can have more chip on their shoulder about their toughness
Mhm.
than some 8s
Yeah.
might have. But yeah.
Oh,
They
what is
also-
Really
Billie
lumpy.
Eilish?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's
Billie
9
Eilish.
Wing
9
8,
with an
right?
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great example because she's like a DJ, I believe, with a 4/8 overlay, probably. And she's very soft. Like personality wise, when you hear her in interviews, she's got more like oomph to her, not necessarily assertive energy. But she's still soft as so soft. She's so
Yeah.
soft. Her music is just like wispy, cloudy air.
It's like barely there.
Yeah, look at search her on Google, and every picture of her, she's falling asleep.
Yeah. Well, that's what reminded me of it, because when you brought up Megan Thee Stallion, they have the same eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, they do,
that-
yeah.
That's
That
another
heavy,
thing.
like,
That's another thing that I think we've got it on the Enneagrammer site, but the 8 Wing gives the 9 more permission to be a 9,
Yeah.
Oh.
whereas the 1 Wing is more constantly
Mm.
sharp and critical at the self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that
that's
makes
that's a
sense.
that's a
Yeah.
giveaway for 9 Wing 8 is the weed eyes, like unashamed weed eyes. Like
Totally.
I
Just
just
all
got
the
baked.
time.
I
Mhm.
got baked, and that's just the way I am.
Deal
all the
with
time.
me. Yeah.
I'm expanding my soft coziness. You know, it's like I'm expanding my chillness.
The other
Yeah,
thing
that's a good
too,
point. Go
I
ahead.
dated a SPSX 9 with an 8, so that was interesting observationally because I'm
Oh, yeah.
SPSX 9 with the 1, as you may know. And
No, we don't know, David.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah. And the thing that we would fight about a lot was that she was kind of like following for what I just said. She was often really dissociated and like not listening to what I was saying.
Yeah.
And so that led to some David Gray rages sometimes.
Oh no.
Like where I was yelling, like, because there'd be something that I've told her numerous times, and she was just like blank, just pure space cadet sometimes.
And that's a good point in terms of like the dissociating a combination of 9 and 8. I was just thinking about this the other day, how 8 Wing 9s, of course 8s are terrible with either wing, but 8 Wing 9 can be worse in the sense that the 9 Wing adds a level of dissociating that there's not real sharpness when it comes to where I'm going to force. And so at least my experience of it is that it's not nuanced. It's kind of like I'm gonna bulldoze in this direction, and it might even be something that where I'm contradicting myself, but I'm gonna push anyway. And so that's sort of like the conflicts that I've had with my dad and my sister, where it's like you just said like a week ago that this was something that you disagreed with, and now it's like you're like 100,000% in this direction. So there can be like this sort of 9-ish. I'm not really paying attention, and I'm just going to use the dissociating to justify my expansion.
Yeah, that's a good point. In contrast to this, going back a little bit to like the 8 wing giving the 9 permission to just be 9-ish. Like I still am in the pattern of like reminding John that I'm lazy, as if he doesn't already know that. I'm still constantly just being like, sorry, I'm just really tight. Like we've been traveling or active or just like have something on the schedule since like the middle of June.
Since before the live pod.
That's a lot.
Yes. It was like people coming to visit, and then you guys, and then we went to Puerto Rico, and then we went to Seattle, and we've just gotten back. I'm still catching up on sleep. And for some reason yesterday, I just like kept reminding him, like, I'm sorry, I'm just really tired. And so I'm just tired and da-da-da-da. And he had to stop me at one point and be like, hey, I know you're a 9. I know you're lazy.
And that's the 1 wing saying, hey,
yes,
totally,
pay attention.
Right.
There's something you should be doing.
Yeah. There's this superego element that says like 9ness is bad.
And then 6 and 3, you gotta work, bitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. God.
We gotta do that commercial.
Yeah.
Wow, that hit. That's it.
that 9 wing 8 just like expanding my lazy 9ness, just boom, versus it kind of like, when somebody does like a stick and poke tattoo where it's like that kind of, it's sort of like 9ness will come out in these like quick little like bursts of like, oh, I'm just being lazy now, but I'm gonna go clean up later. It's like the 1 wing makes it that like there's some kind of like I'm like dipping into 9, but I'm dipping out really fast.
Yes.
That gets at it symbolically. That sharp thing of 1.
Yeah. It's like a shard of softness, like
shard of softness. That's so funny.
Energetically, 9 wing 1 always feels more anxious to me. Like there's an inner conflict with like that says like I'm not supposed to be relaxed. And 9 wing 8s are like they're like all the way. It's like
aggressively relaxed.
Aggressively relaxed.
Obscenely relaxed.
To the point where you can feel that they do not give a fuck about your like that 8 rejection wing thing. It's like I am not completely detached from giving a shit about me just laying on this couch the way I am, and like the dude in what's the name of that movie?
Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski. That's a 9
How
wing.
did you know that?
I know. Jeez, that was some channeling.
What's that one movie? The millions that I didn't describe at all.
Archetypal 9 energy.
Because his name is the dude.
The dude.
No, that doesn't help.
I haven't seen that, so you might have to explain.
Oh, you need to check it out. It's
the movie. He's like it became a cult classic because the guy playing the dude who's actually a 9 wing 8 in real life.
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges is just embodying this sort of sloppy. I live a lifestyle where I don't give a shit and I'm just taking it easy. He's always drinking a white Russian, and he's wearing a bathrobe all the time. His hair
getting
like
stoned all the time,
and so it's like it's a very 9 wing 8 archetypal. It just resonated with people, and so people sort of like identify with that character in a big way because he's just a dude. Like I'm just here.
Oh, I just looked it up. His name really is the dude. That's bananas. I thought David was just being David and just joking around. Wow, this is just a lumpy man. Yeah, that's 9 wing 8.
It's a really good movie too. It's worth checking out.
Lumpy man.
It's a Coen brothers.
Just like
I gotta look it up.
Yeah, look it up. I'm looking up a picture. This guy who is wearing like. It looks just like boxers and like a ratty white t-shirt and a robe, sitting with like his legs wide open on a chair of just like sloppy. It's my 1 wing coming in, but it's just like sloppy, gross, lazy blob.
Oh yeah, that's disgusting.
Like,
do you know the thing I've noticed is that there's something about this energy that women are attracted to. Like
I don't know.
Well, let me hear me out. Hear me out.
Explain yourself, but all right.
In terms of like, archetypes that women are attracted to, because some us guys that like to be put together would look at this guy and be like, I don't know why anyone would find this attractive, but you always end up seeing like hot girls dating these sloppy dudes, and I'm like, what is going on? But there's something about a guy who doesn't care that much about his appearance.
Yeah, I do get that.
Well, you're always gonna look better than him.
Well, but it's almost like it's kind of a weird confidence that it's like, he doesn't care enough, to try that hard.
Yep.
And there's something appealing about that, and I see that reoccurring pattern of like these sloppy guys that have this sort of like 9/8 fakes or something, or core 9/8 that just girls like that shit.
There's like a disheveled quality that it feels like easy confidence that's not super active, and it's usually women, or because like I feel like men have that with some women too, but I do understand that it's the opposite more often. But I do feel like it's more anxious people use that kind of grounded, easy, free, carefree, whatever energy is like something to anchor themselves onto. Yeah.
It also comes through in the collages when we're typing people, because we're often figuring out the wings on the fixes, and you can see it in the refinement or lack of refinement. Once you discern that there's a 9 fix, that's often and it comes through in the aesthetic of the collages.
This is very advanced collage typing here, folks. Okay.
You can I would even say you could do the collage exercise based on people's playlists, because we were at a beach getaway for the weekend, and there is a woman who came with us, and I'm assuming she doesn't listen to this, and she is probably a 3/9 something, I don't know. She's a space cadet in every way except one, but she was playing a playlist that was so like chaotic and like disheveled and awful, and like not, it was just a bunch of songs that had nothing to do with each other slapped together from like 2002. And I was like, this is literally the worst thing I've ever heard. It gives this quality of just like, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
And this comment about like the collages over the years, I've started to realize, dude, it's so revealing. It's like someone burying their soul. If you know what to look for, there's so much that is there in someone's collage. And even if you look at someone's collage, I know we floated this idea as a joke, but it's actually, I think it's legit. If you look at someone's collage and you don't like the world that the collage is illustrating, you probably don't like them.
Yeah, God, that's so true.
There is something so elemental about the way it's constructed, the content.
Well, it's like we talked about with the Baba Chakra thing. People are creating their world, their ideal world. Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to kind of take it in a different direction of saying that, like, obviously the 3/9 fixers on this podcast all have, Nancy, you're 9-wing-1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're all 9-wing-1. So we have an automatic bias against 9-wing-8 of like, you're doing 9 that's wrong kind of thing. But like, so I was just hanging out with Amber today. Amber, who is on the live call, for those that don't know who Amber is. She's the 7-wing-8 that was on the call. She has a 9-wing-8 fix. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, because I feel it's very obvious. Like her sense of chill is just like, I'm fucking relaxing now. Like I'm not doing anything. Like there's no, my relax is like relaxing, but also very sensitive to like if it's okay or not. Mm-hmm. And she's just straight up like, no, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And like it's just so funny to see. And you can kind of see it in her collages too, that she does have those like Alex Gray, I don't know, sort of tones in there, but it's like there's like a big, I'm putting this big relax as an object down.
Mm-hmm. We're relaxing now.
Yeah. It's just like heavy relaxation, where 9-wing-1, I feel like a sensitive relaxation.
Yeah. When, Alexandra, you were talking about the dude having, you said sloppy, gross, lazy blob. And for you, I don't know, like it would be like
Uh-oh. Be careful, John.
Like delicate,
Yeah.
it's like delicate, contained, clean blob. You know,
Okay,
like
wonderful. Excellent. I approve.
you like get home and you like put your clothes away in the right way.
Yeah.
And you know, like you have a little ritual to like unwind, and then you go into blob mode, and you're like,
Yeah.
you know, you're like, oh well, I just need this because I was at work.
Yeah, like I'm trying to justify it all the time.
Yeah. And like David will come back with he'll come out with his comfy pants like whenever we're hanging out. It's like very structured relaxation. This comfortable spot.
I'm putting on the comfortable uniform.
Brian calls it natural habitat, Nancy.
You know that I feel like that's another thing. We all three of us have self-pres in our stackings or whatever, but that's another thing is like I have to find the right comfortable place. Like it has to be the right one. I can't just impose my relaxed passive state on any part of the thing. It's like the assigned wonderful environment that will provide optimum perfect relaxation.
Which is one,
and if anything's off, I'm disrupted.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. I'm wasting my relaxation on subpar relaxation.
That's it.
And I can see
standard.
I can see this kind of like fussiness that, you know, it tends to be 9-wing-1s that mistype is for, and this sort of like access to frustration and this withdrawn quality where it's like, oh, nothing's ever right. Now I'm always fixated on what's missing, and
that's
you
a
know,
good point.
so you know, a lot of 9-wing-1s would because they have this fussy quality, and they're trying to like actually be relaxed, but it's frustrated and it's never really quite there. They might see themselves in 4.
Yeah,
Good point.
that makes sense
For sure.
Yeah, that's funny. I never would have.
There's
I never would have
also
seen it.
there's
ahead.
also again continuing the refinement theme. I mean, there's that kind of refined thing around aesthetics that's going to make 9s with a 1-wing think they're 4s as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the most refined, prettiest collages we've ever gotten are. I mean, we have more 9-wing-1s than probably any other type in the group. It's neck and neck between 9-wing-1 and 6-wing-7, but 9-wing-1 collages, you know, tend to be the most refined that we get.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because, you know, people always say that 4 is like essential quality is like beauty or something like this, or, you know, and 4s do have a relationship to aesthetics, but it's like I do find that 9-wing-1 has like the beautiful as like beauty itself. I mean, maybe I'm happen to have some strong feelings for 9-wing-1s, so maybe there's something there. But
Ooh, John, who the fuck are you talking about?
She's gonna fight him.
This one? Who is this 9-wing-1?
y'all think she's joking, but
That's not a joke.
that's how it be. But
Imagining side bitches.
yes, side bitches everywhere. But no, but like beauty and like things that are just beautiful and pleasing, and you know, that seems so much more the domain of 9-wing-1, whereas like, you know, 4 has more like frustrated tension in their aesthetic, where there's there's a little bit of not undermining itself, but it's you know, it's like whatever beauty there is also being in the process of stripped away in the 4's art or aesthetic or whatever. Whereas 9 and 9-wing-1 especially has a sense of like allowing the beautiful to be the beautiful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, like harmony is the essence quality. And harmonization is like hybridization, and that's what art is. And then you're bringing in the 1-wing, which is about perfection of order. So that combination is why there's so many artists and musicians and so forth that are 9s with a 1-wing. Yeah.
And I feel like one thing that I really connected to when I thought I was a 4 was like being able to find beauty in all types of art, in all like
right,
you know, in everything. And like that's like something that people say is very 4, which is not very
that
4
is
at all.
the opposite of 4.
Right. But a lot of people think that like, oh, finding beauty. It's like no.
Yeah,
no,
so
that's attachment finds beauty, frustration rejects it. You know, like doesn't. It's like no, that's not it. Not it.
Yeah.
So chances are, if you're a 9-wing 1, you're very likely to mistype yourself as a 4.
Yes.
Because you see beauty in everything.
And it's all
or you'll get those
bullshit.
9s that want to be 4s that are like, no, I don't see it in everything, and then like,
yeah, it's complicated because there is a critic thing with the one.
For sure.
It's true,
right?
yeah.
And I mean, you can see, I don't know, there's clips of David Lynch, for example, who's a 9 with a 1, and just him being really frustrated and critical. There's a clip of him talking about people watching movies on their iPhone.
on their fucking phones.
On their fucking phones.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
He sounds lovely.
I think we should do an episode on Lynch sometime.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And we should like either all watch the same thing or watch something different and talk about his 9ness.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Because he's one that some people feel strongly as a 5, and
Right.
he's a 9 boy.
And he's my type twin,
Type
basically.
twin. Yeah, right.
All the
Oh,
way
is
through.
that why he talks like that?
That is why.
The thing with like 9-wing 8, in terms of like what does 9-wing 8 archetypally represent? Well, it feels like of the 9s, 9-wing 8s can more comfortably embody like a leadership role, and so a lot of like, at least in men and women, you get like, for example, Beyonce is like, something archetypal where she's like this queen energy. And there's like strength of the 8-wing, and there's sort of like that unbotheredness that people are more likely to see leadership in a 9-wing 8. And I see that often, like when I've had follow-up sessions with 9-wing 8s, that, they mention like, I'm always, been given a leadership role in this, or I run this, or, we had Obama, who is a social self-pressed 9-wing 8. And so that's sort of like comfortable. People just kind of project leadership on that energy.
There's been several presidents, and it's people like that energy because it's got the 9 soothingness and the attachment, and it's got the 8 strength of presence and so forth. Yeah.
I do think also that the 8-wing comes in to protect the 9ness by just rejecting. Like 9-wing 1 can be a little fussier because it's protecting its 9ness through like scrutiny and criticism or whatever, through frustration.
Yeah.
But the 8-wing just chops it. Like I think a lot of the reasons why 9-wing 8s sometimes type as 8 or sometimes have this like baddie complex or whatever is like they do have, how do I say this? They enforce their non-engagement with rejection.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they'll just be like, not fucking dealing with that. When it's still 9ness, it's still refusal to engage. But if you don't know the way that structure plays out, it looks pretty discerning, and it looks pretty strong. And it looks pretty like typical unbothered is 9-wing 8, I think.
The other thing also to say about the 8-wing is that that's a reactive type. And so 9-wing 8s are less conflict avoidant than 9-wing 1s. And so the anger is much more, I mean, they give themselves more permission to express anger. It's been what I've experienced.
Another way I think of it too is the line to 6 is different with 9s with an 8 and 9s with a 1. Like the 9 with an 8 line to 6 is more physical protection kind of stuff, whereas the 9 with a 1 line to 6 is more heady and intellectual.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll say
sense.
I don't know how to expand on this really, but it's sort of a gut impression. I actually don't think 9-wing 8 is less conflict avoidant than 9-wing 1. And that's kind of what I was speaking to with there's
Unpack that.
That's kind of what I was speaking to, that the 8-wing just rejects in order to protect the 9 non-engagement. Like I have been in conflicts with 9-wing 8 where they just refuse to engage. That is avoiding conflict. That is still like blunt, blatant avoiding conflict, but it's through complete rejection. Versus the 9-wing 1 will avoid the conflict by being like, no, you need to fix how you're talking to me. Like, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Oh no, that's good. That's a really good distinction. So like the Nine Wing One Tone Police. That's a good. That's another one. So
Yeah.
911 Tone Police and the 9 Wing 8. Sort of like what would be the term? They don't go. Is it ghost? Well, I mean, no, both nines
It's not
ghost.
ghosting. I see it more as like
Complete
almost
rejection.
like a behavior police almost. Like it's just like not dealing with you. Like fix yourself or I'm not fucking talking. Like that's been my experience with 9 Wing 8. It's just like refusal to engage completely and calling it something else when it's still 9 avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they feel more cut off to me. Like the 9 Wing 8s feel more. I'm just gonna conveniently disregard what you just said, and I mean, on some level, 9s are all doing it, but it feels more like I just completely just deleted the thing that just happened or that you said.
Yeah. Delete.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like I won't entertain it even. Where 9 Wing 1 has the like frustrated element. You know, that like will entertain and will use frustration to protect the peace in a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, 9 Wing 8 is just like, don't hear you, la la la.
Yeah.
Just cutting off.
Yeah, the 9 Wing 1 has like a sense of how peace should look or be.
True.
You know, whereas the 9 Wing 8 just kind of wants to like belly flop on top of the disturbance.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, okay, it's time to smoke weed now.
Yeah, just time to drown it out. Like just without a lot of discrimination about it. Whereas the 9 Wing 1 is going to be like, well, actually, this is you know, the cozy pants are not on yet, and the temperature is you know,
not
whatever.
correct yet. Yeah.
It is at 73 instead of 72.
That's it.
What was the criticism that people had of Obama? I think it had something. There might be something there with 9 Wing 8 because I don't remember exactly what it was, but
it was that he droned civilian weddings and that he just like, you know, I think this was intentional. He tried to like compromise too much or work with Republicans too much, but I don't think it was because he actually gave a shit about working with Republicans. I think it was just like so he could look like he was being progressive and be on the side of, you know, progressive side of things while actually just staying as economically and socially conservative as he is.
I think like with his AIDS and stuff, it was like that he was checked out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just, you know, on a one-to-one level, day to day.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is that from what at least in terms of his presidential style, that people were critical of how just he would just refuse to engage when he was supposed to,
right,
or something like that. Like he would just, you know, maybe you're supposed to meet with this person and smooth things over, and he just like refuses to do that. And
yeah.
Well, so I think one thing we didn't touch on is that 9 Wing 1 makes the 9 much more like philosophical.
Oh yes,
you know, the philosophy of the universe becomes, you know, idealistic and you know, about the like, you know, idealistic about how things ought to be or how things are, and in some sort of idealistic plane. It's like their sense of harmony almost derives from top down, from the idea, like the view of reality down to the ground, whereas like the 9 Wing 8, it's like their harmony comes from like the roots up.
That's right. That's exactly it right there. Is 1 is top down, like 1 is God's eye, higher order, and 8 is the individual animal on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works well with the stacking overlap too, with an 8 Wing being self-pres social and a 1 Wing being social self-pres.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's an interesting
directions.
That's an interesting to see, like how many creative and progressive seeming 9 Wing 1s out there compared to 9 Wing 8s. Like 9 Wing 8s tend to be on the conservative side of things. Not to say that you're a conservative, but there's something more conservative about this sort of like grounded, rooted approach to things. But it seems like the idealism of the 1 Wing adds like this sort of openness, because there's so many free thinkers and artists and creative types that come up with like wild shit that are 9 Wing 1s, and you don't really get you get a lot of like the writers and the artists that are 9 Wing 1s, but not to say that there aren't creative 9 Wing 8s, because there are, but nine wing 8 is a little bit more stuck in the mud.
It's reformer energy from the 1. So it's improving, finding more refined harmony or something.
And then I think
let me get this in. I might cut this out. This is funny, but I had a ex who was a nine wing 8 who was a set decorator, which is kind of a creative profession, and she made like a student film in school. And so I checked out the student film, because that's kind of like a collage. And guess what her student film was about?
Worms or something?
It was literally in the ground, underground worms crawling around. That was the film. And
amazing. I mean, horrible, but amazing.
So that I called her earthworms. That was her.
That's cute. Earthworm. Aw.
I mean, that's a nickname for nine wing 8. So
Earthworm. That's so funny because there's that meme going around right now of like girlfriends asking their boyfriend, "Would you still love me if I was a worm?"
Oh, really?
It's like pretty nine in general. Oh yeah, I ask John like every day. And now it's a joke, but it's not.
It's not a joke at all, John.
Yeah.
I know.
Ryan always says no to it.
Blink twice.
Brian's always just like, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, John tells me he would just eat me.
Yeah. So different than what I do now.
Eat you. Yeah.
Speaking of little animal names for nines, I call Alexandra a koala, which is up in a tree.
Yeah.
A fluffy thing up in a tree.
True.
It's not on the ground.
Rolling around in the mud.
Yeah. It's not like a little it's something that scurries. It's eating eucalyptus in the very gently in the tree.
Yeah, very slowly.
But one thing we should talk about is and this is Alexandra's something she raised, but like before we started the call, but how does frustration or rejection facilitate attachment?
Okay. So, what I have observed and experienced is, we could go at this from two different angles. Like, how do each of the wings, help keep the attachment going, but also like create the disconnect in order to connect again?
Right.
Because as a one winger, I see it very clearly. Like there are ways where I will prevent the attachment or like refuse to see why there is no reason to disconnect or something like, just like normal pattern stuff where everything will be fine. And then suddenly I'll be like, there's a problem. And I think it's like with the one wing specificity that I'll just like see problems that aren't there. I'll just like find some in like the aperture of it gets really, really, really narrow, and I'll just be like, but this right here, but this tiny little piece, but like, we'll look at this one little inch of stuff that's wrong. Okay, let me see.
And that'll show up in like, like, oh, you said this wrong, or like you didn't. If I need like if I need assurance and you don't give me the right assurance the right way, it's like that's the disconnect goes.
Yeah, and that's also me like monitoring my attachment also. It's just like that's how I'm kind of keeping the attachment going, is making sure all these like micro details are in place. Whereas and kind of being frustrated about them. And I've seen with 9-wing 8s, they will just kind of like chop off what isn't working.
Well, it's also that they're barging in. Like that's my experience with at least what I've observed with 9-wing 8s is that that's an assertive wing, and it's kind of like a put my foot in my own mouth kind of syndrome, where it's like a 9-wing 8 will just assert a certain direction, and of course they'll waffle and they'll pull back once they realize they create a disconnect assertively. It's what it feels like to me. Like I'm not really
interesting
because the 8 is separate, and so I'm going to push to get that sense of aliveness, and so it feels like 9-wing 8s are asserting their 9ness and overstepping some certain boundaries, and then sort of like detaching, and that's the way they're using a rejection to get that disconnect. To asserting.
Yeah, that's really good.
Because I see a lot of times, like in the the types that have started drama in the group, and the 9s that do so and just continue to keep pushing are the 9-wing 8s, the social 9-wing 8s, because they'll just start making, hot take posts and, just like it's more often, I mean, 9-wing 1s will do it too, but there's kind of like a super ego frustration thing behind it, trying to justify them doing that. Whereas the 9-wing 8s is just sort of like more likely to be the asshole, not asshole, but the 9-wing 8 that's going to just say something that stepped over a line and then get people upset and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because that's using 2 different triads. It's using, assertive versus superego, where like a 9-wing 1 isn't necessarily going to just like throw something out there and be like, whoops, didn't know it was going to garner this reaction.
Yeah.
9-wing 8 will maybe not know that it will have garnered that reaction.
Yeah, they're always creating drama and say, oh, who, me? But that assertion, whereas 9-wing 1 might create drama, but there's like, there's a justification for it. This is why I'm speaking up. Whereas 9-wing 8 is just going to start some shit and be like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, but they obviously did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so
what? Who, me? That's so funny.
Just think about certain social self-press 9-wing 8s over the years that we've had that was just like all the shit that they've started on forums.
Oh, I see.
You remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Some Kyle adjacent.
There's been several of them.
Yeah. God. Oh man. Yeah, that's really funny.
And the thing about David that you said about the line to 6 and how it expresses itself differently. One thing I've noticed with the 9-wing 8 line to 6 is that it's more cynical and contrarian, because it's just. Yeah, because at least with 9-wing 1, there's some specificity and like trying to find distinctions. Where at 9-wing 8,
and idealism too with the 1-wing.
Yeah, and so it feels like with 9-wing 8, it's just like don't really have a point. Like it's not specified, but I'm just being contrarian for its own sake.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I've seen that for sure. Where it's just like it's sort of like you feel like you're punching, but you're punching with a burlap bag that the 9 has put over you. Like so it's like you can't really see where you're punching, and you're hitting something. But, right. It's really annoying. Yeah. 9-wing 8s at 6 is probably the most annoying type on the Enneagram for me.
I would say so, because it's like with 9-wing 1, you can sort of argue on a point by point, because it's like trying to drill down into something. There's a point because it's a super ego and frustration. Whereas 9-wing 8 is just sort of like, I'm just being contrarian and I'm asserting something, and when I'm pushed, I don't really have any sort of reasoning behind it. I'm just sort of expanding.
Totally. Yeah, that's funny.
For me, the attachment to disconnect thing often shows up as me being critical about some specific thing. Like, I don't know if you guys saw John and Alexandra in that one chat that we're in, just like criticizing Avery about her sweater or something.
Oh, yes.
She had Bucky's sweater, which is this horrendous convenience store or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's sort of my way of bonding. But
sure, yeah.
It's like I'm fucking with her.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. She knows it. Yeah.
And it's but it's critical. It's like it's aesthetically wrong that you're wearing that.
Yeah, and I mean, I have that same. I mean, you have it too with all the Taco Bell and the Wendy's and the horrible things they all like in there. Yeah, there is like a prickly quality to 9-wing 1 that 9-wing 8 doesn't have.
Yep.
And like I was on a crusade is not the right word, but just when I was more active on my Enneagram account, which I need to be more active on, there's my 1-wing already coming up. Of just like, I'm lazy. Maybe a 9-wing 8 would be like, yeah, I put it down, where I'm like, oh God, I need to get back to it. But anyway, one of the things that I was always trying to parse out was the sort of like equalizing the effectiveness of both 9-wing 8 and 9-wing 1. Because, it even came up here where like 9-wing 8 is the least conflict avoidant one, or like the one that's going to be, how do I say this? Like most effectively angry or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the anger of a 9-wing 8 is more angry than the anger of a 9-wing 1. And that's something I was trying to like, that is not my experience. Because I feel like when I'm angry, I'm like viciously angry.
Right.
So that's something. And anyway, one of the distinctions was like the 9-wing 8 anger, that sort of volcanic 9 anger with an 8-wing is more that wrecking ball, that kind of just like blunt. Whereas the 1-wing I feel like is like a dagger being held in the hand.
Yeah.
Like it's just more specified and like takes less energy, but is really specific versus the 8-wing that uses more energy and is more expansive and has just this like bigger kind of bulldozing effect. But they're both still, gonna kill you if it gets really angry.
Well, the thing about the 9-wing 1 is it's chewing on that frustration. So it feels like the 9-wing 1s are the ones that will just continue a conflict, slow drip over a long period of time. So like in the forums, I see that as like the ones that just won't let it go. Like they just keep chewing on the frustration. Whereas the 9-wing 8 might come in, big and hot, like it's an explosion. But once you actually pin them down, there's really not much there because it doesn't have the specificity of the 1-wing. So it's a little bit different.
So it doesn't have the verbal argument.
No, it doesn't. It's just like it starts off maybe as a big jab, and then once examined, it falls apart. Right. Whereas 9-wing 1 will do the tone police and just keep that going. Like, but you didn't do this, but you didn't, like that sort of.
And a lot of 9-wing 1s will just like be in relationships for that purpose.
Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
An analogy that just came to mind about fighting or arguing with a 9-wing 8 is like when you're in a nightmare and you're trying to scream and you can't scream. It's like it feels like that. You're just like, I am screaming my guts out, and yet nothing is happening.
That's my experience with my ex. It's like you're not hearing me at all.
Yeah, it's just like am I invisible? Am I a ghost? Like what's going on?
So pick your poison.
Yeah.
What style of dissociation do you want to deal with?
9s are great.
And on the anger side, that led to me yelling at the very top of my lungs straight into her ear.
Oh, nice. That's a great visual right there.
That's fun.
Yeah. No,
I mean, as loud as I could. We're talking about differences in anger and degrees of anger.
I think Brian is the only man that I have ever argued with that I have screamed at.
Oh,
I have never screamed at another man.
That's when you know it's real.
We have a very healthy relationship, guys. We just argue, okay?
Yeah.
If you're not arguing,
Brian, blink twice.
He's stuck in the closet.
Yeah, now I'm even thinking about the difference in conflict that I've had with 9-wing 1s and 9-wing 8s. Because I was basically like raised in a flock of 9-wing 1s.
Oh, Jesus.
My mom, my sister, John and I were just in Puerto Rico where he met my family. And it was like, just like a field of 9-wing 1s.
Just incredible amounts of 9-wing 1s.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like, yeah, on the surface, everything looks like nice and polite and whatever. But like growing up, there was a lot of just like micro energetic, just like warfare. When things like the energy would get like suspiciously quiet, but then any kind of like ripple in the energy you'd know was like something, even if it wasn't directed, even if it wasn't like verbalized, but you'd know it. So like I know the 9-1 or not, I know the 9-wing 1 style of conflict, and it's like very fucking annoying. It's super annoying. And at the same time, I've got.
Tell us about it. I need a breakdown. What is the 9-wing 1 style of conflict?
Oh, well, like, okay. So like with my sister, it's a lot of, everything's good. It's a lot of like, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that you and your sister do is there's like a game of chicken in terms of who's going to acknowledge the problem first. Is then whoever acknowledges the problem, it's like, oh, you have the problem.
That's right.
Like, and it's just
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, like, oh, you brought this up now. Like, oh, you want to make a whole thing now. Like, and
Oh
the
my God,
one that is making the whole thing is like somehow in a
That's the
lesser
bad person.
position.
The conflict starter, yeah. Yeah.
And so there's like a level of shaming there where it's like, I've been amazed, like just with you and your sister texting, just of like how much it can go on of like, you can feel that you guys are angry at each other. And
yes.
And there's just like this lack of acknowledgement, and it's like the way that you'll fight even is like bring each other up to the like the lid of acknowledging the conflict or the anger, and still like
it's all energetic.
The other one still won't go over the edge, and it's
yeah.
But
like,
it's very, very exhausting. Which
you can
in a
absolutely
way,
feel it. Like you can feel like, oh, now she's about to admit or has to admit or cornered her, and then diffuses, and it's like, no.
I wouldn't even say diffuse. It's just like suddenly, like the stretch of road gets like longer, and then the tension builds and builds and builds. Yeah, and so growing up, my mom is also a 911. So growing up, when my mom was angry, it was usually because my sister and I were pretty linked growing up, like very like packed in a pack together, usually against my mom, who was like, pretty reactive for a 9, or at least like in the 9 world, she was the reactive one. And so it would be this thing where like we could tell that our mom was angry. And so it was just this, I remember car rides to church or something like that, where my mom's just stewing, and she wouldn't say anything, but like, if I turn the music on, to something she didn't like, I don't like that, turn it to the next one. And it was just like just dripping with just like his poisonous tone. And so that reminds me of something John and I were talking about in Puerto Rico, that the reason 9-wing 1s are so sensitive to the tone is because that is like the biggest weapon that a 9-wing 1 has, is this tone with like plausible deniability, but you can feel all the anger and the seething like frustration in the tone. You know what I'm saying? So there are so many 9s that you can just absolutely feel, and 9-wing 8 does it too, but it is more of a frustrated quality of a 1-winger. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah, that you can the words are fine, the expression is fine, but there is something in like the vocal quality and like the energetic, the state of the energy emanating off of them that is just so vicious. You guys all know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Surely. Yeah. That like
they don't call you
that is
cunt
the
wing for
reason.
nothing.
Yeah. And like it's just such a tell on themselves. When a 9 tone polices you, it's usually because their tone fucking sucks.
Yep. That's a soundbite right there.
And unfortunately it is like it's mostly 1. Like 8 does that, the 8-wingers does that foot and mouth thing, where instead of like perfectly presenting or perfectly like laying out the landscape for the conflict to then be admitted by the other party or whatever, a 9-wing 8 will just kind of clumsily just throw something out there without like thinking it through, it seems. You know what I mean? And then have to like backtrack from there.
That's always what it seems like to me with 9-wing 8s. It's like they said too much. They stepped over a line. Yes. And now they have to clean it up, and that's where they're doing their attachment to disconnect. I went too far. Now I have to sort of like backpedal, but it's like the 8 reactivity. I pushed too far, and I provoked people to react to me, and now we're sort of locked into this like attachment to disconnect thing. Whereas with the 9-wing, the 1-wing, it's like a frustrated criticism, and we're locked into an attachment to disconnect based on the discussion about the different little details of what you did wrong.
Yep. I often acknowledge the soon-to-be storm that is brewing long before Brian acknowledges it. And so I'll be like, is everything okay? He's like, yeah, everything's fine. But it's like in this voice, like, I don't know. It's like a robot said it. Everything's fine.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, ooh.
Oh yeah, it's there. Yep. It's the separated voice.
Yeah, and he doesn't know it either. I'm like, I don't think everything is. And he's like, no, everything is. And he means it. And then like 6 days later, he's like, and I'm like, yep, there it is.
Man.
Yeah, that is funny because sometimes I really don't know it. Like I know something in the lake is off, but I don't actually know what the thing is yet. But yeah, there are other times where I totally know it. Yeah.
Something in the water is off.
Yeah, totally. It's just like, something's in there. but I don't know what it is. So there have been times where John will ask me like if something's fine, and I will say everything's fine because I don't consciously know what that disruption is yet. But I do know that something's been where it's just like something's there, but I can't put it into words yet. So I'm just going to say it's fine until I know what it is.
I really wish y'all wouldn't do that.
Man, I wish I would just know right away.
Yeah, no, I will either just be like, okay, well, storms are coming, or I'll just provoke her to just try to get it out or get it to the surface.
I do that too.
Yeah, man, that's so annoying.
Yeah, I poke.
That's great.
John, do you have any 9s in your family?
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean my
grandparents.
My grandma is, but like I hardly know her or see her.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just thinking I didn't have any frame of reference for 9 energy growing up, and so learning the Enneagram and recognizing that this type is, for a while it was like, this is the craziest thing ever. Like,
yeah, absolutely. No, even still, I'm next to her and I'm like, what is going on?
It's just worth. I mean, even though we've been talking about 9s with a 1 wing as more articulate and sharp and everything, it's still a body type, right?
Yeah.
So it's still, whatever's brewing is in that kind of nonverbal space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, just the way that Alexandra can just like chill, just be, and like there's so much going on in this like this still area. It is kind of like I think I'm more used to it now, but at the beginning, I mean, wasn't I like?
Yeah, you were very confused.
Confused like that you would just chill, that you were just laying around all the time?
I don't think in that. I think he was a little fascinated with that. Like he would call me a body type a lot when we were first dating, when we first got together, and I was like, why is this such a big thing? And I realized it's because he'd never been around like just like a lumpy creature before.
Yeah.
Well, he's used to there always being with somebody where there's always a problem.
Yeah.
Always, constantly.
Yeah.
Right. And it's being vocalized.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But okay. So that was the other end, is like the other end of his confusion was also seeing how I dealt with my own emotional disruption. And sometimes like it would be what I described, where like I felt disturbed somehow, can't articulate it yet. And that would like stress him out, I think, because he was used to being with like very frustratedly vocal people. That my inability to articulate in the moment would cause him to like try to provoke it out of me. And then it was just like, wait, I don't know what it is yet. I'm not trying to hide it. I just fucking can't find it yet.
That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, I mean, I just have a really dumb sense of humor. And so like that Megan Thee Stallion song Body, just when I see that, sometimes Alexandra will just be like in a lump on the couch in blankets. And I do that like body yada yada yada, or like we have this like crazy curvy curly cozy body yada, like because she's such like a creature that is like complete unto herself.
Yeah,
and it's like we were saying earlier that she'll need to like apologize for being lazy, and I mean I just have to remind her like I'm fucking withdrawn as hell. Like I'm probably more withdrawn than she is. So like I know the alone thing, but her what it is like a self-containedness that is amazing. Like I have to be focused on something and active in some inner way, whereas her just ability as a body type just to to be a lump is like is amazing.
Yeah, I need just creature time. Where like John's way of self-regulating is to be like focused on some sort of some sort of inner productivity going, where I need time to just like do nothing. Like I need my inner I need just my inner life to just be like a big open field of grass and nothingness. So that my energy is just like free to be restored. You know what I'm saying? Like it is like restorative recharge time where I don't need to be doing anything. I don't need to be focused on anything, but like I need time to not be focused.
Like, yeah, because like what that's making me think of is my withdrawn alone time. I'm still like in that 4 thing of unspooling and processing and like expressing in some introverted way my identity, like drawing or something like that. Or usually it's something like drawing or engaging with a topic that I'm fascinated by. But like, yeah, with Alexandra, there's just no activity.
yeah. I can do
amazing
like,
amounts
physical...
of no activity.
Yeah. Give us nothing. Yes, that's me. I can do like physical, like mindless physical activities while I'm kind of doing nothing, and that's like, but that's
Same.
my way to sort of like, that's my way to claim my inner world. It's just like, it's sort of a mindless outer thing that I'm doing so that my inner world is just free for me. But that's how it has to feel. And this is like early, and I know we're getting off topic here, but like early in the Enneagram, in my Enneagram sort of journey or whatever, I would keep hearing the word freedom being associated to 7. And I questioned, like, I didn't necessarily question having a 7 fix, but that always was something that I went back to, of just like, why is freedom associated to 7 so much? Like, I feel the need for freedom so much. But that is like the difference, I think, is like, I don't necessarily need it externally, but I need it very, very strictly internally.
Well, it gets at the word maybe autonomy also.
Yeah,
as
that's
a
true.
Parallel to freedom.
Yeah, because
and if
7...
your world doesn't foster it, you will make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
The thing with 7 freedom, it's more of a mental kind of like staying ahead of whatever is happening now. So it's like, it's a different sort of thing than the body type sort of like sense of autonomy that I need to feel like I can do my thing, versus 7 sort of sense of freedom is much more mental.
7 sense of freedom is like many things could happen, whereas like 9's freedom is like, I want nothing to be able to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, this is like off topic too, but David, and we don't have to keep this in because this is just like nonsense, but David, I was listening to your episode with Josh. I haven't finished it yet, but there was a thing you kept talking about, like, well, I'm localizing, and had this kind of like resentment around being localized. And I was thinking about that too, because he asked you like what percentage of your identity is something. I can't remember the specific word now.
Enneagram stuff.
Okay, yeah, maybe it was that. But it like sent me off on this whole inner, like, I don't know, inner highway of just like thoughts, just this like inner network of thoughts. And it sent me to this place of like, I guess this is what I associated with freedom, is like, I personally don't want to be localized. Like there's almost like, 4 has the specificity of like nothing is specific enough to be me, where I almost feel like nothing is big enough to like contain everything that I am. So like, I know that's a different thing, but I guess I just wanted to verbalize that. Yeah, where it's like nothing, if I focus on this, if I localize myself here, I will inevitably be neglecting another part of me. It's not big enough.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of like part of 9ness is you want to be the whole circle at the same time.
Yeah.
The circle of everything, that anything could be anything and everything is everything or something. And yeah, that's part of the dissipation though of 9, is that you're spread too thin, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, we've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up.
Yeah, we're sick of 9s.
Yeah.
I am.
We've talked about y'all too much. But yeah, that should cover it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, that was. So wait, Nancy, you're deserting us. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. So, I was hoping that the transition would be a little bit easier, but due to the housing crisis in the Netherlands, we're leaving our apartment the 31st. I fly out the 13th, so I'm going to be in my friend's house, and she's a 1, and she has a very strict schedule. So I really don't know how recording there would go.
Sure.
And then we have an Airbnb for 2 weeks, and I can just tell it's not going to be a good setup. And then we'll meet in our new place, but my school starts the day I have to move in as well. So I'm just going to give myself, it's great. I love the next 2.5 months of my life is going to be great. So I'm just going to give myself those 2 weeks to kind of settle in. And then I'm going to need it to be a different time because I'll be
that's
6 hours ahead of you.
Yep.
6 hours ahead. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll see. I mean, we could record, try to keep it on Sunday, but maybe we'll just record earlier in the day. We could do that. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I won't have like a friend group or anything, so I'll be much freer.
Got to start over out
Sad
there.
face. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a hell of a transition for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so soon.
I know. It's exhausting already thinking about it, but it's exciting too.
Get out of America.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Alexandra and John, you just come along. We have couches.
Perfect. All right, we'll be right there.
My dog has already met your cats. He loves them. It'll be great.
Beautiful. Let's do it. Oh, that's right. I was like, what is she talking about? Oh, yeah. No, they have.
Yeah.
You just heard Alexandra's cat voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I got my little potato beside me, so.
Well, until next time.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, love you guys.
Bye. Love you.
Oh, I love you.
Like a lost dream.